Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inside the Birds NFL Weekly Preview Show. I'm Geoff Mosher, and here we go into Week 4. That's right. Think about this. After this weekend, we are about through a quarter of the NFL season. We'll be through 4 weeks of a 17-game season. Not exactly a quarter, but close to it, and that just shows you how much time flies in the NFL. It feels like opening day or opening week was just a couple of days ago. And the next time you hear me do this podcast on a Friday or Saturday, it will already be 4 weeks in to the NFL season. And I still it's a weird week. There's not a lot of great matchups this week. A couple of 3-0 teams. Obviously, the Eagles and Buccaneers are going at it. Colts, Rams, good game for sure. But other than that, you've got some really lopsided matchups. The Giants, Chargers, obviously Jackson Dart will make his debut. You got the 3-0 Bills versus the 0-3 Saints. So you got some really lopsided matchups, and you got a bunch of teams right now living in that middle class. They're either 1-2 or 2-1, which is normal for this time of the year. What I think we're going to do is start to figure out who some teams are and who are just the teams that last week was a bizarre week in the NFL. I mean, you had some teams suffer some inexplicable losses. I mean, we'll get into it as I preview games, but who could have seen the Panthers blowing out the Falcons 30-0? I know the Bengals were in their first game without Joe Burrow. Did you see them losing to Carson Wentz and the Vikings by 38 points? Did you see the Packers going and losing in Cleveland to the Browns? Just some absolutely bizarre games. The Cowboys losing to the Bears. So if you're the type of person who makes your picks each week based on what you saw the week before, well, this is going to be a tough week for you. I am more the person who tries to say, every once in a while, you just get a bad week. And it comes at a time you don't expect it. It happens. It's the ebb and flow of the NFL season. The only team that doesn't seem to be able to have those kind of peaks and valleys is the Eagles right now, as they've won 19 of their last 20. But as I always say, when you have a streak like that, the losses are just around the corner. The law of averages catches up with everybody. But credit the Eagles. They find ways to win games. So do the Buffalo Bills. And away we go here in Week 4. I want to start off talking about the Thursday night game between the Seahawks and the Cardinals. And I'm really fascinated by the NFC West in general. I think it's one of those divisions where, yes, there is a clear best team right now in the Rams. The Rams really are going to kick themselves for blowing that 19-point lead against the Eagles. They look very strong. They look good defensively, despite the fact that they don't have a great secondary. They look good offensively. I think the Devontae Adams addition, replacing Cooper Kupp, has been great for their offense. They run the ball really well. They've got Blake Corum now taking some time or taking some mileage off Kyren Williams. He gives them a little bit of juice. So I think the Rams, even after blowing that game, will be a good team and will probably win the NFC West. I think they're just the best overall team. But the Niners, you got to give them credit. The Niners have already overcome the injuries that they seem to always have, and they are a good team. They're undefeated so far. And then you had a game Thursday night between the Seahawks, who were 2-1, and the Cardinals, who were 2-1 going into the game. And I think both of these teams are pretty good. They're not great. They're missing some things, especially on offense. They're not fully complete, but they're both teams that have some good defensive players that are playing well defensively, still trying to figure out who they are offensively, but they're teams that you have to show up and beat. You can't play your C+ game and beat the Seahawks and the Cardinals. And now the Seahawks are 3-1 after sort of escaping with the 23-20 win there on the last second field goal in a game that they were up 14-3 at one point, which showed you the Cardinals themselves had a little fight in them. It was a good NFC West battle. And the Cardinals are, quote unquote, the worst of the division, and they're 2-2. And that was their chance really at home to, I felt, have a better game. They've only beaten the Saints and the Panthers so far. They lost a 1-point game to the Niners, and now they've lost a 3-point game to the Seahawks. So they're in it in their division. I mean, they're not getting blown out, but watching that game was really frustrating. I think this offense has catered. Drew Petzing offense with the outside zone, with the play action, is catering to some of Kyler Murray's strengths. He seems to be, over the last few years since coming back from that knee injury, a more efficient quarterback. I know he threw 2 picks. You guys saw it. I mean, one looked like a complete miscommunication on a route concept, and the other was actually should have been a catch. I mean, just bounces off, I think it was Marvin Harrison's hands, and goes right into the receiver, the D-back's hands. These were not 2 interceptions that early in the career you would say, Kyler Murray, what are you doing? Right. So the Cardinals are frustrating to watch because I don't think they're capitalizing on Kyler Murray's ability to beat you with his arm and his legs. It seems like he had a big run in the second half that was not designed. It was a scramble. And earlier in the game, he had some scrambles and he would just go dive. I get that Kyler had the knee injury a couple of years ago and he worked hard to come back from that. And there's always been this uncertainty about whether or not he's going to be their quarterback of the future, but he has been. They haven't drafted anybody, but they seem, I don't know why they seem reluctant to want to get him more involved in the running offense, the way, say, the Eagles get Jalen Hurts involved, or Lamar with the Ravens, or Josh Allen with the Bills. I'm not saying Kyler is as good of a player, but he's a very explosive runner. Low, compact to the ground, low leverage, speedy guy who is shifty and hard to tackle. And I just think that they're missing something right now offensively. It looked like for the first half the players didn't want to be there on offense. Marvin Harrison, who has not been the guy that I thought he would be. A lot of people thought he would be. I mean, the Cardinals thought he would be. They drafted him, I think, 4th overall. He just hasn't been that guy. He did catch a touchdown later in the game. But right now, the offense is throw it to Trey McBride, try to throw it to Marvin Harrison, hope that everybody's on the same page, which it doesn't look like it is right now. You're trying to get a running game going without James Conner, who's on IR. So you're giving the ball to 2 different running backs. DeMarcado is the pass catching back. They're trying to run the ball with Benson. It's just not a good offense. And it's an offense that lacks playmakers. After Harrison and after McBride, who, by the way, had 21 combined targets, right? I mean, Murray threw the ball 41 times. 50% of the time, it's going to those 2 guys. And then you got Greg Dortch, Benson, the running back, Michael Wilson, who I just think the Cardinals missed a really big opportunity in the offseason to do more to spice up their offense. You got McBride, you got Harrison. Harrison wasn't lights out as a rookie. You could have banked on some improvement by year 2, but this team just is lackluster offensively, and it doesn't look like they play for Kyler Murray. I mean, they were dropping his passes. They were not in communication, in sync with him. And then Kyler's got to go to the sideline and say, hey, here's what we got to do. And I think that his leadership has always been questioned, and you could see it in that game. I think he's not a bad quarterback. He's got a great arm, throws off his back foot a little bit too much, but he can make things happen with his own legs. He can keep plays alive. And he can throw into tight windows. You saw him thread it to Harrison and McBride a couple of times. He can do these things, but he's got no weapons around him. The weapons don't seem interested in playing with him, and he doesn't seem interested in rallying the troops and getting everybody on the same page. So I feel like it's a missed opportunity because the Cardinals have a pretty good defense. They're getting better. And I think they'll be in the thick of it in the NFC West, but I'm not inspired by their offensive play. Jonathan Gannon, he's a defensive-minded guy. I don't know if he cares enough offensively. I don't know if he's been able to get through to Kyler Murray and his offensive weapons, but through 4 weeks, because they played their 4th game, they are not lighting up the scoreboard. And they look like a very lackluster offensive team. And I get it because they just don't have a whole lot of weapons that make you think that they're going to be any good. So the defense can only do so much. I mean, their high point is 27 against Panthers week 2. After that, 20 against the Saints, 15 against the Niners, and now 20 against the Seahawks. So just think it's a golden opportunity for the Cardinals to really finally become more relevant that's being wasted. Now, on the flip side, I also think the Seahawks don't have that much offensively. Much like the Cardinals, they got one guy or two guys that they want to throw to, and Jackson Smith and Jigba is one of the best in the league I think this is year 3 for him. He really came on last year. They traded Metcalf. They made him the guy. He's showing he can be the guy, but they really, the rookie tight end Arroyo hasn't really carved his role yet. I told you guys week 1 about the rookie that they have in Torrey Horton. He didn't really have a big game, but he will come on as the season goes. But they're another team that has a defensive-minded head coach, and so what they want to do is run the ball. And they ran the ball fairly well with Walker and Charbonnet, but you see they don't have enough to pull away, right? They didn't have enough. The Cardinals kept in the game. They were up 17-3 at one point in the third quarter, and they just couldn't put their pedal to the metal, or they couldn't choke them out, whatever analogy you want to use. And that game wound up being too close for comfort them, and they needed a 52-yard field goal at the end. I just don't think they have enough offensively. And are they a good defense? Yes. Are they good enough, like the Legion of Boom, to just dominate teams week in and week out defensively and squeak by on 20 to 23 points? No. So 3-1 looks good. Had a nice game against the Steelers a couple of weeks ago, but I question theirs and Arizona's ability in the end to hang with the Rams and a healthy 49ers team. You never know with the 49ers. So if they're healthy, okay. If not, different story.
Hey, you know that one guy in the group chat who hit a 5-leg parlay week 1 and he wouldn't shut up about it for the rest of the season? Sounds like Kaplan, right? Yeah, it could be him. It could be you, and we would all want to be you. MyBookie makes it stupid easy to get in on the action, whether it's college ball, NFL, super contest, and survivor pools. All the spreads, player props, and in-game lines that you could want all under one roof. What more could you want than that? If you're new to MyBookie, use our code, THEBIRDS, THEBIRDS, THEBIRDS. Use the code, and any bet you choose up to $500 is fully covered. Make your play, and if it doesn't hit, you get it right back when you opt in using your bet back bonus token. There is no better time to jump in right now. No better place to play. Football is back. Let's make some money with MyBookie.
Hey, fall is planting season. Did you know that many plants and trees actually do better when planted this time of the year? But you got to know where to start, and that's why I love fastgrowingtrees.com. Doesn't matter if you live in the sunny south or if the air's getting a little chilly where you are, the plant experts can help you find the perfect fit for your space. They've got everything your yard needs: fruit trees, privacy trees, shrubs, flowering trees, so much more. And Fast Growing Trees makes it so easy for you to have your dream yard because you can order online and get your plants delivered directly to your door. If you're like me, you're tired of spending way too much money on landscaping. And if you walk into one of those nurseries and you look at all the stuff they have, you have no idea where to begin. That's why you need fastgrowingtrees.com. Doesn't matter about the size of your yard. They got over 6,000 plants to fit any space, and a 14-point quality checklist ensures you will get the best quality plants possible. This fall, they have the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to our show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code BIRDS at checkout. 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code BIRDS at checkout. Now's the perfect time to plant. Use BIRDS to save today. The offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. Check out the link below or in the show notes and support the show. Obviously, you got a game in Europe this week. It is in Ireland, actually. The Vikings and the Steelers. We all know, the Steelers, the Rooney family, their ties to Ireland. That is why this game is being played there. It's a 9:30 game. The line is the Vikings are 2.5-point favorites. So the Vikings gave you one of those wins last week where you wonder, like, oh, did they just find something, or was that one of those fluky wins? They welcomed the Cincinnati Bengals, the Jake Browning-led Cincinnati Bengals, and they absolutely pummeled them in Carson Wentz's first start. Now, listen, if you saw the box score and saw Vikings 48, Bengals 10, you probably thought, holy cow, Kevin O'Connell has done it again. Carson Wentz must have looked like Sam Darnold last year. Folks, Carson Wentz was along for the ride. He was 14 of 20 for 173 yards. When you score 48 points, you think your quarterback lit it up. It was less that and more of Isaiah Rodgers having a 66-yard fumble return and Isaiah Rodgers having an 87-yard interception return and Jordan Mason running for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. Sure, Wentz distributed the ball. He didn't throw any interceptions, which is always the thing with Carson. He was only sacked 3 times, which, for Carson, that's a good game. But the bottom line is, I think the Vikings are very good in the trenches, and that'll enable them to survive having Carson Wentz as their quarterback for now, as long as Carson's not turning the ball over. And they obviously caught the Bengals at the right time. The Bengals couldn't do anything. Listen, we know Brian Flores is one of the best. He's going to come at you. He's going to come at you. He's going to come at you. All right. And he came at Jake Browning, and Jake Browning was not ready for it. So I'm not going to be the type of person that now says the Bengals are going to stink for the next 7 or 8 weeks or 9 weeks, 10 weeks, however long that Burrow is out just because of this result. But I do think the Vikings have a good run game with Jordan Mason, and they'll eventually get Aaron Jones back. They have a good defensive line, good pass rush, great defensive coordinator, good offensive line. So I think that they will be able to survive here without J.J. McCarthy, who obviously wasn't lighting it up. People want to know, is there a chance that Carson Wentz can claim this job and be the reclamation guy? I don't know. I think we're too early in the season. They got the Steelers this week. We'll see. Then they face a tough defense against the Browns. Then they got the bye. Then they got the Eagles. Then they got the Chargers. Then they got the Lions. Then they got the Ravens. So let's not put the cart before the horse. That is a brutal, brutal stretch. So they just have to take care of business this week against the Steelers in Ireland, and then we'll see what happens against Cleveland, go into the bye week and get ready for that gambit that they have to face. The Steelers are not the Steelers. Don't get fooled. I know that they won last week and against the Patriots, and they only won 21-14 in New England. By itself, that's good. They're 2-1. They forced 5 turnovers in that game. How do you force 5 turnovers in a game? Okay, you get 5 takeaways, and you only win by a touchdown. In fact, the game was tied in the fourth quarter, and then Aaron Rodgers threw a touchdown in the fourth quarter. To me, that shows you that the Steelers are very flawed. In 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you give Mike Tomlin and the Steelers 5 turnovers, guess what? They're going to pummel you. But they still have no run game. They still have a moderate passing game. And while their defense might have picked up the pace after a rough first few weeks, it was just the Patriots. So I can't make too much, and it wouldn't shock me at all if the Vikings were able to win this game. Again, they're 2.5-point favorites for a reason. Pittsburgh's got to beat somebody. We'll see. We'll see what they can do against this Vikings pass rush. Washington at Atlanta. Folks, I don't know about the Falcons. They are 1.5-point favorites, and I think that's mostly because they're home and because Washington is probably going to be on their backup quarterback. They're probably going to be without Terry McLaurin. Doesn't look good for McLaurin. He may have to have the core surgery. They've got an injury at the running back position. So they're 1.5-point favorites, but I can't trust the Falcons to beat anybody after they just lost to the Panthers. Panthers took the first 2 weeks of the season off and then beat them 30-0. I got all excited about the Falcons and their 6 sacks a couple weeks ago when they beat the Vikings. And then they go and just lay an absolute egg against the Panthers, who just suddenly wake up. The Panthers wake up and wax the Falcons. There's something wrong. And then listen, I like Raheem Morris as a coach. I think he has the chance and the potential to be a good coach. Everywhere he has been as an assistant, they have loved him. He had that head coaching job way too early in his career, way too young with Tampa. He left there. He wound up having a few. I think he was in Washington. He was with the Rams. And everywhere he went, they would rave about him. He's a good coach. But you go and being a coach is not always about X's and O's. It's about how you are a leader of men. You lose 30-0 in Carolina. What do? You fire your wide receivers coach. That's going to fix your problem. You just gave up 30 points to an offense, excuse me, that took the first 2 weeks of the season off. So not a good look for Raheem Morris. Not a good look for the Falcons. They're 1-2. I'm frankly not sure why they're favored in this game other than the injuries to Washington, but it wouldn't faze me in the slightest if the Commanders still went in there and won that game. Mariota has played well for the last 2 years when he's been asked to step in. Looks like a completely different quarterback. Dan Quinn has done a nice job overcoming the injuries. I thought the Eckler injury would hurt them for 1 week. It did not. It's not exactly playing murderer's row, but, behind Mariota, and they were able to beat the Raiders. I thought they would. They stomped on them 41-24. And honestly, going to the Falcons probably isn't that much of a concern for them either. So Atlanta's got a lot to show here, folks. And Raheem Morris, you're going to fire your wide receivers coach after you lose 30-0. Now the spotlight's on you, my friend. So I'm sure Arthur Blank, the owner, can't be very happy about that. Buffalo is hosting the New Orleans Saints. This could quite possibly be the best or second best NFL team versus the worst, clearly the worst. And so that's why the Bills are 14.5 point favorites at home. Wouldn't surprise me if that line got even bigger. That's a big line to cover, but if a team's going to cover that, it'll be the Bills at home against the Saints. The Bills are clicking right now. I mean, their only real tough opponent was week 1 when they beat the Ravens on that huge comeback when they were down 15. They beat the Jets. They beat the Dolphins. Now they get the Saints. And then they'll have the Patriots and Falcons after that. The Bills may not lose. All right, here's the Bills schedule. Saints, week 4. Patriots, week 5. Falcons, week 6. Bye week, week 7. The bye week might give them the toughest time. Week 8, Carolina Panthers. All right. They don't face a real opponent until the Kansas City Chiefs. November 2nd, week 9. It's going to be cold out. Right now, where I live, it's 80 degrees. It'll probably be cold out. It might even be snowing in Buffalo for that game, November 2nd. Who knows? But that's how the Bills are on a highway right now. And listen, if you're in a Survivor League and you haven't taken the Bills yet, and you got any of the next 6 weeks to be able to take them. So, do that at your own discretion. Browns at Lions. Browns are 9.5 point underdogs. The Browns shocked the world. They beat the Packers last week. It wasn't a pretty game. They won 17-10. But I told you this. I told you this going into the year. The Browns are having some ugly moments, but their defense is pretty good. They gave up 16 in a loss to the Bengals week 1. They lost that game 17. I'm sorry, they gave up 17. They lost 17-16. They got pounded by the Ravens. That's an AFC North game that's always going to be weird. And then they welcome the Packers into Cleveland, and they win 13-10. So far, they've held 2 of their 3 opponents under 18 points. Bengals scored 17. Packers scored 10. And by the way, that was the Joe Burrow Bengals. So they've held Burrow and Love to modest yards here. So their defense can play. This is a totally different animal this week, though. They're playing a Lions team that is absolutely on fire since losing to Green Bay in the opener. 52 points against the Bears, 38 points against the Ravens, who continue to play poorly on defense in the second half and turn the ball over. But you give them credit. They have found it. I was worried about their O-line, but they have run the ball well. They have mixed the run and pass. It seems like they have hit their stride. I don't think they're going to go into Cleveland and come out with 35 to 50 points, but they know what they're doing. They know how to score. I think this one will be a tough one for Cleveland. I'm sorry, this game's in Detroit, so that makes it even tougher. It's the nice track speed for the Lions, and Lions are 9.5 point favorites. I expect them to win. The Panthers at the Patriots, folks. This game just stinks looking at it, honestly. I don't know what got into the Panthers last week in their 30-0 win. It was a good job by Dave Canales kind of rallying the team. It's not, again, this wasn't a game where the offense came alive. Bryce Young had 121 yards. He didn't throw a touchdown, but he didn't also throw an interception. They ran the ball okay. They got a couple of big field goals. They got a couple of touchdown runs. They had interception return. It's just basically that the Falcons stunk and the Panthers took advantage of it. Now, can the Panthers get to 2-2 this week against the Patriots in New England? Good question. I don't know. I don't know what New England Patriots team is going to show up because they have been a weird team this year as well. You know, they lose to the Raiders in the season opener. They come back and beat the Dolphins in a big divisional game for them. And then they lose to the Steelers and turn the ball over 5 times. I guarantee you this, if they turn the ball over 5 times against the Panthers, they'll lose. I would guess that if they don't turn the ball over, they'll probably beat the Panthers. I think they're better overall than the Panthers. They're at home, so I'd expect the Patriots to win. They're 5.5-point favorites, but who can guarantee it? I don't know enough about these two teams right now, and I'm not impressed with either of them. Chargers at Giants, 1:00 game. Now, this will be the most exciting game between an unbeaten team and a winless team of the afternoon because the Giants have decided to throw the master plan out the window and bench Russell Wilson after 3 games, and they're going with the wonder kid, Jackson Dart. That's what everybody wants to see. All the fans want to see because, he was great in the preseason. Well, reality check for Jackson Dart. Your first game will come against the Chargers. Good luck. All right, the unbeaten Chargers, who have all 3 wins have come against AFC West opponents. They've beaten the Broncos, the Chiefs, and they've beaten the Raiders. Okay, so they're off to a pretty good start, and their defense looks pretty good. All right, so welcome to the NFL, Jackson Dart. You got to go play the 3-0 Chargers. At least you're home. And then you get your first gift. You go on the road week 5 for the Saints. All right, great. You play the worst team in football. Maybe you get a win. And then Jackson Dart, you will then play in order the Eagles, the Broncos, the Eagles again, and the 49ers. All right. You might get a little bit of a break after that with the Bears. I don't know what the Bears are going to be back then or at that point. They did look impressive last week. And then you got to face the Packers and Lions after that. So what are we expecting for Jackson Dart here that we weren't getting from the 0-3 Giants? I don't know. Can he beat the Saints? Sure. Could Russell Wilson have probably beaten the Saints? I would think so. Again, it's about the offensive line and getting Andrew Thomas back. It's about being able to get a lead on a team so that your 4-man rush, which has all these studs on it, can actually tee off on the quarterback. They never have a lead. They're going to have a lead against the Chargers. I feel like this is and I don't even understand how this saves Brian Daboll, right? Because he's now bringing in Jackson Dart to face some really tough teams. So if they are 1-6, 1-7, it doesn't look good. It looks like you're not getting the job done. He could have waited to be 1-6 and 1-7, then put Dart in and tried to get Dart some wins against the Bears, the Patriots, second half of the schedule, Vikings, Raiders, but he's going to them early. Well, I guess I got to give him credit for that. He's throwing Jackson Dart to the Wolves, and he's putting his job security in the line here. But I would not expect, you'll get some juice. They'll get Jackson Dart involved in the running game. Maybe they'll do a little bit better job getting the ball to Malik Neighbors. But I think throwing him against Jesse Minter's defense in his first start is certainly a baptism by fire. And if I'm the Chargers, 6.5-point favorites on the road, I'm looking forward to it. Eagles, Bucks, great game. Should be really good. I'm reading that it's going to be 103 degrees on the field, which is typical of an Eagles-Bucks game because they always wind up playing in September or early October. They always play at the Pirate Ship for whatever reason. It's been a house of horrors for the Eagles. I think they've lost 6 of last 7 overall to the Bucks. But this will be interesting because A.J. Brown is expected to play. He usually misses this game. Mike Evans not expected to play. He's out with a hamstring. So this will be the game where the Eagles will feel for once that maybe they have the injury advantage, even though the Eagles have some injuries on their own, but Tampa Bay's offensive line really beat up. We're going to cover it all on Inside the Birds pregame show. We did cover it all, myself, Adam Kaplan, and Greg Cosell. I expect it to be a pretty fun game, though. And clearly, of all the games I've mentioned so far, this probably feels like the one that has the potential, just like last week's one, to be most exciting and have the most intrigue. Titans at Texans. Now, if you would have told me that week 4, the Titans and Texans was going to be a battle of 2 0-3 teams, I would have said that's nonsense. You know that I was higher on the Texans than what their record suggests. Their offense has been terrible. I don't know what the fix for them is other than just getting continuity and protecting CJ Stroud. They need to do a better job. So far, they have been an embarrassment. Not bad, an embarrassment on offense. They have scored 38 total points. Okay, 38 points in 3 games. The Lions have, I believe, scored that twice already this year in a single game. An embarrassment. It's got to turn around, and it has to start against a Titans team that is equally reeling. A Titans team that itself, they've actually scored more points. They've scored 41 points, but have given up a lot the last 2 weeks. They gave up 33 to the Rams. They gave up 41 to the Colts. If it's now or never for the Texans, man, and that offense, or else something's going to have to be done. D'Amico has done a fine job with that defense. It's not a question of that. They have a very good defense. They haven't allowed more than 20 points yet in a game, but D'Amico has got to find a better offensive game plan. He fired Bobby Slowick after last year. They made some they made some moves offensively to bring in Christian Kirk to try to fix the line. And Kirk had 3 catches for 25 yards last week. Right now, they have to force feed Nico Collins. They don't have much of a running game. I said last week I thought they need to get Woody Marks more involved. 6 rushes, 27 yards. They really got to get him the ball in his hands out of the backfield, let him catch a ball. But scoring 10 points against the Jaguars, they're making the Jaguars look like the 85 Bears. Let's go. Come on, Texans. Like, you were in the playoffs last year. You won your playoff game against the Chargers, and you gave the Chiefs a good game in the divisional round. Then you start off 0-3 against these 3 teams. I mean, you aren't playing murderer's row here. Rams, Bucks, Jags. Okay, the Rams and Bucks are good, but you were in the divisional round last year. You can't be 0-3. Show me some offense. Show me some life. My God. I mean, I'm sorry, folks, but I had a little bit higher expectations for this Texans team, and they're just an embarrassment right now on offense. They need to figure it out. Somehow they're 7.5-point favorites against the Titans. I don't know if they're going to cover. I think they're going to win. I don't know if they can cover 7.5 because to beat a team by 7, you got to win by 8. That means you got to score 8 more points than your opponent. Can they score 8 more points than anybody? Sports are all about competition. Every snap, every possession, every clutch moment matters. That same energy is what 1v1 Me brings to video games. Every single day, you can watch and stake on matchups in Madden, NBA 2K, FC, and Call of Duty Search and Destroy. All the games are streamed live. Every match has refs, and payouts are instant. And these aren't just random online lobbies. These are the best players in the scene, pros, streamers, and rivals. With season playoffs and the championship game on the line, every game matters. Over $100 million has already been paid out on the app, and the community is growing fast. If you're a sports fan, a gamer, or just someone who loves having a little extra on the line, 1v1 Me is where you need to be. It's not just about winning, it's about the bragging rights too. Every match has a chat going crazy, and you can back your picks in real time. Download today and use code BIRDS. Your first stake on the app is risk-free. That's code BIRDS for a risk-free first stake. Hey, Philly fans, game day is stressful enough. Parking, traffic, long lines. We've all been there. But when it comes to your cannabis, Camden Apothecary makes it easy. This is the dispensary for sports fans, just minutes outside of Philly with plenty of free parking. You'll be in and out fast, no hassle, no waiting. And they don't just care about convenience. Camden Apothecary is all about the guest experience. Their staff makes sure you feel taken care of every time you walk in. Plus, they carry only the best quality cannabis at the fairest prices. So whether you're stocking up for the tailgate, the watch party, or celebrating a big win, you know you're getting the good stuff without overpaying. They even show love to the community with specials for fans, students, service members, and healthcare pros. Camden Apothecary, top quality cannabis, great prices, and an experience made for Philly fans 21 and up. Colts at Rams. This is the second best game. This is a 4:00 game, so probably the best of the four, second best of the 4:00 games, maybe the second best game of the weekend. Credit to Colts. It truly does look like Daniel Jones is now becoming last year's Sam Darnold. I mean, he's doing everything he needs to do to win and then some. He's playing well, not just getting by. They scored 41 points against the Titans. They scored 29 against that Broncos defense, and they waxed the Dolphins. They are averaging over 30 points per game. And obviously, their ability to move the ball with Daniel Jones at quarterback has really opened it up for their great running back, Jonathan Taylor, who is off to a great start. And they're defensively, they've been pretty good. Not great. I gave up 28 to the Broncos. The Titans don't have much of an offense to measure them against. So this will be a very good measuring stick game because they're going to go play a Rams team out in LA that is either going to do one of two things. They're either going to have a hangover from blowing it against the Eagles, or they're going to be so freaking motivated to get back on the field and get that sour taste in their mouth that they're going to want to really, really get back in the win column and feel like they should be undefeated. So they're 3.5-point favorites. It's a tough game to call. I wouldn't touch this one. Any team can win. These are two teams that run the ball really, really well and pass the ball deliberately and methodically. Stafford missed a bunch of – Stafford is the one who's going to look at himself in the mirror after that Eagles loss and say, I blew it. I had 5 or 6 throws where there was not pressure in my face that I could have made the right throw. I either led a guy, threw it high. Stafford doesn't ordinarily do that. And if he does it again against the Colts and they win, you got to wonder what's going on with him because his first 2 weeks were really good. Tape was really good, but he missed a lot of throws against the Eagles. This will be a good game. This will be a good game, and I look forward to it. Jags at 49ers. 49ers are 3.5-point favorites. Now, it looks like they'll get Purdy back this week, and they almost have to because, as it is with the 49ers, Mac Jones got hurt. I think it was a PCL injury, so I don't think he'd be able to play. But it looks like Purdy will come back. They're still dealing with Kittle's injury. They're riding Christian McCaffrey. Juwan Jennings is another guy that has been banged up. So right now, their operation is get the ball to McCaffrey, who has stayed healthy, who has looked great, has been the bell cow for them in absence of not having Ayuk and not having Kittle. Pearsall has been really good. Listen, you know that all the Niners need is a few weapons, and they can move the chains. They're not blowing up the scoreboard by any means, but they are undefeated. They haven't played really tough opponents. I mean, they just edged the Cardinals 16-15 last Sunday. They just barely beat the Saints, who are awful, but they're 3-0. They beat the Seahawks, a Seahawks team that since that game has looked pretty good. And if they can beat the Jaguars at home, they go to 4-0, and it just gives them another week before they get Kittle, before they get Ayuk back, and before they're fully healthy. And honestly, I think that they can beat this game. I know the Jags are 2-1. They have not looked impressive to me at 2-1. You know, again, they beat the Texans 17-10. Their defense has looked very good outside of giving up 31 to the Bengals in week 2. But they've also probably looked good because they've played a Texans offense that stinks right now and a Panthers offense that stinks. So I don't know. I don't know who the Jags are. I don't believe in them yet. It wouldn't surprise me if not only did the 49ers win this game, but if they won it they covered pretty decently. 3.5-point favorites. If Jacksonville wins this game, I will probably have to start to reevaluate them, what they are defensively, and get over the fact that Trevor Lawrence has been unable to get the ball to Brian Thomas, has been unable to get the ball to Travis Hunter, and that overall this Jags offense, which I thought would look a lot better with Liam Cohen, has looked very, very pedestrian so far. Now, the other 4:25 game, this could be a great game. It could be just as good as Colts and Rams if the Chiefs and the Ravens sort of play a Chiefs-Ravens game. Remember, the Chiefs haven't been themselves this year. I mean, they did beat the Giants, but it's not like they were poetry in motion in doing it. They just needed a win. They went out to New York. They got to New Jersey, got their win 22-9. So it was good on them to be able to kind of just get into the win column. They got the ball to Tyquan Thornton in this game. But again, the Giants kind of stink defensively. But I do think it was important for them in absence of a running game right now. And I still think they're going to have to make a move to get themselves a better running back. But in the absence of that, Mahomes only had to run for 2 yards against the Giants. They were able to get Thornton the ball. They got the ball to Kelsey a little bit, Marquise Brown a little bit. It sounds like Xavier Worthy is going to be able to play. So if that's the case and they can get him the ball and he can open some things up, the Chiefs are going to be at home. Their defense is going to be good. And let's face it, this Ravens team has looked pretty poor defensively through 3 weeks. Remember what I said in my first show? The Ravens last year finished the year, their last 8 games, had the second best scoring and total defense in the NFL, right behind the Eagles. And not only did they bring back all of their important players on defense, they went out and got Jair Alexander. I had the Ravens as my number 1 team going into the season, right over the Eagles, just because I felt from a 53 standpoint, bringing everybody back from that defense and then adding Alexander. We know how good Lamar and the offense is. I thought they would be okay, but it seems like they're having a hangover from the way they lost in the divisional round to the Bills last year, because they were beating the Bills soundly on the road in the season opener. Then Derrick Henry fumbles, and then all hell breaks loose for their defense, and they lose 41-40. Then they come home, they beat the Browns because it's the Browns. But then last week, they're home against the Lions. They look somewhat in control of that. I mean, it was a neck and neck game. They were up 28-24. And then bad things happen. The Derrick Henry fumble really hurt them. Again, Derrick Henry, who does not fumble a whole lot, he gets kind of strip sacked from behind, which is surprising. And I forget who made the play. I think it was Aiden Hutchinson. So credit to Aiden Hutchinson. He makes a play from behind where he gets the ball out of Henry's hands, and Henry fumbles. And at that point, so Detroit's up at that point, 28-24, right? And at that point, he fumbles. The Lions get it back. They immediately convert the field goal. They go up 31-24. Then they tack on another one. David Montgomery had a great game. 151 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. And they win that game. And that's an impressive win for Detroit. But you're the Ravens, and you have now blown it twice. This game was more neck and neck. It's not like you're up 15 points, but it just feels like your second half defense is really hurting you. They were up 21-14 in the third quarter when Mark Andrews caught a touchdown. So they were up in that game in the second half. So yeah, you look at this game and you say, I have blown it now twice in the first 3 weeks. I've blown it against good teams, but I'm supposed to be a good team. We're the Baltimore Ravens. All right. Now we're 1-2, and we got to go to Kansas City. And this is always a great game between these two. If they lose, the Ravens lose this game and fall to 1-3, they do have some tough games on the schedule. They got the Rams in week 6. So that would put them in a tough spot. Their AFC North games are traditionally tough. We'll see about the Texans in week 5, Bears week 8. I mean, listen, they should be all right once they get past their week 7 bye, because it's Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, Jets, Bengals, Steelers. So Bengals again. I mean, they'll be fine. They're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to win double-digit games. But these measuring stick games earlier in the year, they clearly haven't measured up yet. And that surprises me from a Ravens team that I thought was going to be really good going into the year. The Bears on the road against the Vegas Raiders. So the Raiders stink. Yet they are 1.5-point favorites at home. I just think Pete Carroll's got a lot of work to do with this team. They're on paper better than they've been in the past. I mean, Geno is a capable quarterback. They're not getting the ball enough to Gentry. We have not seen really explosive plays from him. Their passing game is not going to Brock Bowers the way I thought it would be. In fact, I think Trey Tucker is their leading receiver. They're kind of like a discombobulated team right now, which is sort of very Las Vegas Raiderish. It's just Raiders to be discombobulated. But they come home and they'll play the Bears. And the Bears, look, I challenged Brian Johnson. I said, I didn't like the way you threw your team under the bus after you got your ass kicked by the Lions. And they responded to his challenge, at least. He said they didn't practice like a championship level team. I thought that was an asinine statement from a coach who's never won a championship as a head coach or a coordinator. So I didn't know what he was expecting, but you give him credit. They were home. They welcomed the Cowboys. They were underdogs. They didn't only win, but they pounded the Cowboys. And so that was a good bounce back win. This is another one of those weeks where do you judge the Bears off of week 3 and week 3 only and not take into account that they looked terrible against the Lions and they blew a lead against the Vikings and started off 0-2. So do you go and say, oh, they're completely turned around and beating the Cowboys, so now they're going to go thrash the Raiders? I don't know. Well, this is anyone's game. Wouldn't shock me if the Raiders won this game. I'm not sitting here touting the Bears just because of one win, but I will say the connection between Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze is looking really good right now. Brian Johnson does have the offense, at least against the Cowboys. I like what he's got going on with Caleb Williams and getting the ball to Luther Burden, which I said last week. They talked about wanting to get the ball to Luther Burden. 3 catches for 101 yards. Rome Odunze, 3 catches, 62 yards and a touchdown. So it looks like those two guys are becoming a bigger part of the offense. I wonder if DJ Moore is getting phased out a little bit. Still waiting on Colston Loveland to become a bigger part. But this is where the Bears need to capitalize, okay? This is where you're Brian Johnson. You challenged your team. They responded. Now let's go. Let's see what you got. Now you got a winnable game against the Raiders, okay? The week after that, you get your rematch against the Commanders, a game you should have won last year, but blew it on a Hail Mary. And then you get the Saints. So you got 2 of 3 games coming up that are winnable. Commanders will be tough. I would say 2 of 3 games are winnable. Win 2 of those 3, Brian Johnson, and I will start to question you less and your coaching strategies. 8:20 game, Green Bay at Dallas. I remember this being a playoff game a couple of years ago and Dallas completely crapping the bed and Jordan Love really coming alive. Now, Green Bay goes into a Dallas. Now, do I judge Green Bay off of a complete egg lay against the Browns, a bad game for Jordan Love? Or do I look at the bigger picture and say this Green Bay team is still very good? They failed their first test away from Lambeau. Now they got a bigger test in Dallas where Micah Parsons will make his return. I'm sure that might only be mentioned 5,632 times between Tirico and Collinsworth. I'm sure that'll be the main storyline. To me, the bigger storyline, I guess Dallas is getting a little healthier in the secondary, but I don't believe in that Dallas defense. It just got shredded by the Bears. The Packers, I think, are better offensively than they showed. Now, Jacobs is banged up. He's dealing with an injury. We'll see if he plays. If he doesn't play, might be a totally different Green Bay team because they rely on the run as much as any, the Rams, the Eagles, any of those teams that like to run the ball. Green Bay is right up there. If Jacobs is banged up and not 100%, advantage Dallas. The Green Bay are 6.5-point favorites. They should be 6.5-point favorites. That's Vegas not taking last week into account. Well, it is. It's taking last week because the Cowboys also got their butts kicked in Chicago. I think Green Bay will win. I think Parsons is going to have a big game. Shocker there. I think Green Bay is going to win. It may not be as easy as they've beaten the Cowboys in the past. I don't know if they cover the 6.5. If Jacobs is hurt and doesn't play or comes out, then it's a closer game than you think. But the Packers should win this game. Then you get 2 Monday night games. Again, you got an AFC East snooze fest between the Jets and Dolphins. Folks, I'm sorry you have to watch this on Monday Night Football. That's all I have to say. Miami found a few things offensively, I guess, in their last 2 weeks. They scored 27 against the Patriots, scored 21 against the Bills. Looked like Tua was doing a better job of getting the ball to Tyreek Hill, getting the ball to Waddle. against the Bills, but their defense absolutely stinks right now. Now, we'll see if Justin Fields can play. He was in the concussion protocol, but he was out on the practice field. If he plays, they're going to try to run the ball. Can the Dolphins stop the run? I don't know if the Dolphins can stop anything right now. The Jets are not an offensive juggernaut, but they were representative in that game against the Bucs. You know, they blocked a field goal, gave themselves a chance. Only the Jets can block a field goal and still lose the game, but they scored 27 in that game, scored 32 against the Steelers. So against bad defenses, Bucs actually aren't a bad defense. They showed that they can do some things. You know, their offensive line's better. They showed that they can play a little bit. Can they expose the Dolphins? If the Dolphins lose this game, I'll tell you this, heads will roll. If the Dolphins go to 0-4 and that would be 0-2 in their own division and can't even beat the Jets, who are themselves are 0-3, then heads will roll. And it wouldn't surprise me if Mike McDaniel's days would be numbered. I like Mike McDaniel, but he hasn't done a very good job last year, and then the first 3 games of this year. He needs to win this game to save his job. The Dolphins are 2.5-point favorites. They should win the game, honestly. I think they're the better team, but the Jets are not going to make it easy for them. And if they lose, heads will roll in Miami. That owner, Stephen Ross, he is not going to put up with this for much longer. And then there's the Bengals at the Broncos, 8:15. Broncos are 7.5-point favorites. I know everybody is thinking right now that the Broncos are just going to roll on the Bengals and Jake Browning. It's in Denver. Denver's defense is vicious, can be vicious, and Jake Browning looked terrible. I'm not in that camp. Do I think the Broncos will win? Yes, I think they'll win. Do I think the Bengals will struggle offensively? Yes, I think they'll struggle offensively. Do I expect the Bengals to lose by 38 points? No, I don't. I expect Zach Taylor to figure some things out. They still have 2 very good wide receivers. They still have a very good running back that they got to figure out a way to get more involved as a ball carrier, and they have to figure out a way to play a little bit more ball control, which is short rhythm passes underneath. They got to get the ball out quickly because that Broncos pass rush is lethal. I think Zach Taylor is a good coach and can do that. I know they have offensive line issues. We all know that. That's going to hurt them against the Broncos for sure. I'm not expecting them to win, but I don't expect that just because they lost by 38 points to the Vikings that they will just do the same against the Broncos. Now, the good thing for Jake Browning is when you play a team like the Vikings, Brian Flores is going to come at you every direction possible. You really need to run the ball well to keep Flores' defense off you, and they were not able to do that against the Vikings. They're going to do a better job against the Broncos, but Vance Joseph is the same way. He's going to throw 1,000 different blitzes at Jake Browning. So if anything, Jake can take what he saw against the Vikings and apply it, him and the offensive staff, to what they're probably going to see against the Broncos, which is a whole lot of pressure from a whole lot of different directions. It's just the way both of those defensive coordinators are wired. I would expect the Bengals to play a better game. Do they win? Not looking good. But I'm not of the mindset that just because they got their rear ends kicked in 1 week by the Vikings, that's automatically going to happen in Denver. I still have questions about Denver's offense. The Broncos, to me, are a good team, but listen, they've lost their last 2 games because they only scored 20 against the Chargers and they only scored 28 against the Colts and 20 against the Titans. So in 2 of 3 games, they've looked lackluster offensively. Bengals don't have a great defense. However, it is still, in my mind, a question mark of how good this Broncos offense is. They should win, though. And those are the Monday night games. That is the entire week 4 slate. Time for my picks that I will make.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
I did not do a good job. I think this happened to me last year in week 2 and week 3 where you're still feeling out teams, but I went 0-3 on my picks again last week after doing it in week 2. I'm pretty sure I did the same thing last year, and by the end of the year I was way in. I think I was my win clip was between 65 and 68%. So that's what you get the first month. You get a lot of games that you're just not sure of and some unpredictable outcomes. But hey, no excuses. I'm 2-7 overall after a pretty good start. Last 2 weeks have really hurt me. This week, I like the Chargers to cover their 6.5 against the Giants. I think the Giants can get a spark from Jackson Dart, but not enough to beat a Chargers team that is rolling right now. So maybe it'll be close. Maybe it'll be a 6-point game going into the fourth, but I could see the Chargers then pulling away on a late touchdown and winning by like 13, 14 points. I like the Chiefs at home getting 2.5 against the Ravens. Only because I think the Ravens defense does not look good. And if the Chiefs are getting Worthy back, now they got a win under their belt. They are underdogs at home again. I think that's the second time in 3 weeks that they're underdogs at home. That can't go well with the home team. I think that Spagnuolo, he knows what the Ravens do. He'll have a good plan. And listen, I think it could be a 1-point game. Even if the Ravens win by 1, I win because I'm taking the Chiefs to cover the 2.5. I wish it were 3.5 or 3, but at least get that push if it's a Ravens by a field goal. However, 2.5, I'm willing to lay it on the line there. And I like the Vikings to beat the Steelers in Dublin. I think that I'm not basing this off last week. I just think that the Vikings are really good in the trenches, and I don't believe in this Steelers offense right now. They can't run the ball, and that's going to lead to Brian Flores teeing off on Aaron Rodgers. And right now, Rodgers only has one real legit weapon without a running game. It's DK Metcalf, and the Steelers just have not been impressive. So all Carson Wentz has to do is not turn the ball over 3, 4, 5 times, which is always a little rough, but Kevin O'Connell is good at hiding his quarterback when he needs to. And I think the Vikings will cover the 2.5 against the Steelers. So that's it. Those are my picks. That is the Inside the Birds Week 4 NFL preview. Everybody, as always, enjoy your football watching.